Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamutim Dvandvatitam Gaganashatrisham Tattvamasya Rilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Savadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satguruntam Namami. Nithyananda, welcome to Enlightened Parenting, the first session in this new year 2020. So I'm seeing that people are starting to join. Anyway, we will start the session. Let me just quickly introduce myself. Those of you who already know me, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who are new to this session and also myself. So let me just introduce myself very quickly. My name is Nithyananda, and a lot of people call me Maduga in short. So I've been with Swamiji since 2006, as a disciple of Swamiji since 2006. And one of the best things that happened to me is to discover Gurukul and Enlightened Parenting. And in today's session, I've been actually doing parenting over the last couple of years, but I think today's session is the first time I'm coming on Facebook Live to share with a larger audience. Of course, very much inspired by Ma White, who are now already doing a lot of Facebook sessions on the manifesting power session, the Courtyard Manifesting Power session. So I'm so delighted. Let's see. I'm getting a lot of things from the chat column. Thank you all of you for joining. So let me just recap today's topic. So basically the topic is, what is enlightened parenting? And also, what are the 10 tips in enlightened parenting which can fundamentally change your approach in parenting your child? Basically, what I'm sharing today is those 10 tips which I personally embrace. Understand? It's not something that I just pick and just talk about it, but what I truly live by and practice and test it on my child. That's what I'm sharing with this group. So it's very clear, it is something that has been something that not only fundamentally changed my cognition about how I relate with my child, but also fundamentally changed the way I approach parenting. So I like to keep this more like an intimate sharing of parenting. See, I have a child who is now 16, going to 17 by June. So I am really, really blessed to have Swamiji in my life to guide me in terms of parenting an extraordinary divine child. So a lot of the tips that I learned had helped me to basically create a powerful and space of possibility for my child. So that's what I'm going to share in today's session. Okay, so let's get started. Now, this happened in 2013, about 7 years ago, when Ma Rishi Adwait started the whole series of enlightened parenting workshops which I attended at the time. And obviously, a lot of clicks were, received. And you must understand, all this enlightened parenting clicks or truth were given by Swamiji, the way how he relates with his kids in the Gurukul, how he basically relate with his kids in the Gurukul, the Balasans. So these are basically very, very practical truth when it comes to parenting. So now let me just start off with the very first understanding of what exactly is enlightened parenting. Now you should know that parenting is not something that you can go and study. You can go to a course and learn. Basically, it will just happen and you learn along the way. But there's so much you can learn from the enlightened master because of the way they how operate from the consciousness and the way how they relate with children from the enlightened consciousness. There's so much that opened up in me when I discover how to relate with kids from the enlightened consciousness. So let's start with the definition of enlightened parenting. Okay, I have a request to slow down because some of them are doing translation, simultaneous translation at the Chinese channel. So I'm going to speak slower now. All right. So the essence of enlightened parenting is to create awareness among conscious parents, to hold a space of possibility for the child's flowering without the interference of the conditioning and the patterns. So basically, as parents, we need to be aware of the incompletion, the patterns that we carry, and to make sure that we don't pass on to all these conditionings and incompletion to the next generation, and allowing them to flower, to blossom in their own way for the purpose they have assumed the body. So that is enlightened parenting, giving that support and holding the pure space of possibility. So I'm going to share with you now 10 tips which I learned. I think a lot of people are waiting to come on. Sorry for the slight interruption because as this is the first time I'm doing it on Facebook Live, so a lot of people are waiting to come on Zoom, which I normally conduct in the Zoom on a private basis. But this time around, I'm coming on Facebook Live, so they don't know where to join. So I'm just guiding them to come to this, the Singapore Ardinum Facebook page. So let's dive into the first tip that all parents, conscious parents who aspire to bring out the best, the most intelligent kids, they should know is you need to understand what is space of a child. Now, basically, you should know that from the time the child is born till the age of 7, the child lives in this beautiful space called the space of a child. They live in the space of solutions where there's no judging, thinking, because they're just in the pure awareness. In that pure space, they are constantly in deep listening, pure listening. And in that space is what we call as the space of possibilities. Because in that space, they can just connect with the cosmos, just like downloading the internet. Downloading happens when they are in the pure space. So kids basically in that pure space relate with the world through pure listening, and they simply respond from the space of emptiness and innate intelligence. And you should know that if kids are constantly being kept in the pure space, they can tap into this natural intelligence, whereby they will be constantly in the space of expansion cognition. That means, always thinking of the possibility, solution, being life positive, life affirmative. So as a parent, conscious parent, it is our responsibility to keep them in that space of a child, where they are living in joy, innocence, and highest innate intelligence. It is actually the space of enlightened consciousness. If we are able to keep a child in that enlightened consciousness space of a child as long as we can, even right after puberty, when they reach teenager, be very clear, they will not develop patterns of suffering, meaning they will live a life that is patternless, without patterns. And they will be healthy, joyful, and extremely creative and intelligent. This is what we can do as parents, is to be very mindful not to destroy their body, their space. So when I learned about this space of a child, I had a big shift, a click within me. That is, as a mother, my role is to keep my child in that space of a child by constantly being aware of not putting anything from my side, my patterns, my fear and greed into his space, and allow him to consciously flower in that space naturally. See, you need to understand, especially for adults, because we've left the space for a long time. It takes a while for us to reconnect with that space again, to have the understanding of the space of a child. Because we're so used to logic, thinking, because that's the way how we're programmed by society in the school. So naturally coming to this, back to the space of a child where there's no judgment, no thinking, and just pure awareness, that space takes time for us to come back to. And it's also a conscious decision by the parents to want to be in relating with the child from that space. See, a lot of parents, when they are not aware of this possibility of the space of a child, what they do is they constantly pull the kids out of their natural space into the adult space. And you should know, in the adult space, it is filled with impossibility, fear, greed, incompletions, all the patterns of anger, frustration, violence, all that is part of the adult space. And that's why when a child is being yanked out of their natural space, they will struggle to understand, and they will not be happy because that's not their natural state. So the first tip that a conscious parent can do is to be aware of this thing called space of the child, this beautiful space where kids live in. Keep them in the pure space, and you can see they simply become so intelligent. The connection with the divine, with the consciousness, just becomes so effortless, where logic does not come in, but they are in the highest intelligence. Okay, so that is the first tip that I'm going to give. Now I want to just sidetrack a little bit. I share with the audience. I make a conscious decision to retain the innocence of my son, because in the pure innocence and space, they are so natural, such a joy to be with. So I make a conscious effort to keep him there and try to, I would say, protect that space as much as I can as a mother. And I can see the effort has paid off because of the innocent space. He's able to also relate with higher beings. He's able to connect with Swamiji so effortlessly and also manifest power so effortlessly. So that's what I want to share. My personal take on holding the space of a child in your kid, keeping them in the space of the child as long as you can. So let's move on to the second tip. The second tip that I learned when I was going through the workshop is coming back to the space of listening. See, as adults, we lost the ability to listen, authentic listening, meaning listening without judgment, anything from the past, just pure awareness. Because a lot of time we may be pretending to listen, but in our mind we are already calculating, thinking, strategizing, what to respond, what to do, and all that. So we are not in the present moment where the child is trying to relate with you or trying to talk to you. So coming to the space of listening is also something very, very important, because a lot of parents, they don't have the patience to listen to their kid. They expect the kid to listen to them. No. If you understand their independent intelligence, you should know that communication happens when listening happens. So when you start to listen to your child, you enter into the space of the child where communication happens. Understand? It is only when you stop listening, they are in the space of the child, you're in your adult space, then communication can't happen. When you're able to start relating with your child in the space of the child where communication happens, eventually communion happens. The next level of relating with your child happens. Communion means able to understand your child without verbalization. Having that complete trust in the child, and the child having that complete trust in you without having to verbalize it. It's such a powerful connection which can happen, and I have experienced it myself. I can share with you one experience when that communion happened. There was a time I used to bring my son to the grocery shopping in the market, wet market. And there was once he told me that I can find you Just by listening to my heart, I know how to locate you. And I didn't believe it. So I say, okay, let me just walk away to some parts of the market and you come and find me. And true enough, just through the communion only, he's able to find me in whichever shop I am in. So that is, what I understood by communion, when the child is able to relate to you and having that feeling connection with you. They can simply activate the higher intelligence to know, to find you. So that's my personal experience. Okay, so coming back to the listening. So as you know, in the adult space, listening is so poor. We have deteriorated in our ability to listen. So coming back to this listening space takes effort, because we are so unconscious. See, when I was starting to learn about this listening, I was in this unconscious pattern of restlessness, because after having worked in the corporate world for 18 years, so all that just made me easily agitated, restless in the inner space, impatient. So as a result, the listening is really poor, But when I learned from Swamiji the importance of Shravana, listening, that shifted me. Because when you are able to listen, you are able to take in so much more from your child. You're able to relate with the child as he is, and you'll be able to see the possibility in the child's eyes. So that's what it's the very, very important part of establishing the communication, which is listening. Because when you start to listen, you can then move on to the next tip, which is completion. When you're not listening, you cannot complete with your child. Okay? So the second tip is start listening to your child. Now, I'm going to the third tip, which is complete with your child and teach your child these signs of completion. See, Swamiji revived this powerful science called Purnatva, the science of completion, which was a technique given by Paramashiva in the Vinyara Bhairava Tantra, technique 22. In this technique, he says that we can complete all the past hangover, which is sitting in our present moment, constantly destroying our space and our ability to manifest a new future. So imagine, as a parent, you have a lot of incompletions from childhood all the way till now. And you're living life filled with all these past incompletions. And the way you relate with people, your relationship with family, friends, colleagues, also are projected from the space of incompletion. So you can imagine, when you have all these hangovers from the past, you can never really have a complete, fulfilled relationship with anyone, because you yourself are not able to be complete with yourself. So when I learned this science in 2012, when Swamiji revealed this powerful science of completion, I tell you, I spent many months doing completion within me, something like 9 to 12 months doing completion. And I started to complete with my child for like 3 to 6 months, all the past, unconscious incompletion that I did to him, and all that, creating all the the tension between us, I started to complete with him, especially in the night before he sleeps. So I would spend time before he sleeps to just chat with him, talk to him. It's like a casual chat, asking him how his day in school and anything that he was not happy that caused him to be unhappy or happy. And just by opening that conversation and providing the listening, I noticed that a lot of sharing started to open up between the mother and child. So when I noticed whatever incompletion he has with me, I was able to then complete with him. And it's literally like cleaning up his inner space, his pure space, accumulated over the years or the day, and wiping it clean again before he falls asleep. So you can imagine when the child start to have completion at this young age, they will do wonders. They'll be so highly creative and intelligent because all this dust does not settle in the inner space and start to manifest in other form of disturbance in the body, mind, and their space, which can cause sickness and disorder. Understand? So literally every night I would be sitting with him, by the bed, giving him, powerful cognition, completing with him whatever that's, I've done to him unconsciously, unintentionally, and also whatever that happened in the day in the school, whether it's with the teachers, whether it's with the friends, etc., whatever may be. Giving him the fulfillment of completion. And even I take guidance from him about how to correct myself. See, a lot of Chinese parents, faith is a big issue. They will never admit their mistake in front of the child. But this signs of completion, which I learned from Swamiji, taught me to just drop this ego, this looking good in front of the kids, that parents can never make mistake, which is not true. We all make mistake. So, but willingness to complete with the child. I tell you, when I start to seek guidance from him, and I get him to share with me the happenings of incompletion, the day that he had, and listening to him without judgment, that listening gives so much power to heal him and give him the expansion, cognition. I find it heals so much in the relationship when a parent is willing to listen and also complete with the kids, whatever that the parent has done to the child unconsciously. So those completion moment, the night of completion, is a time I also remind him again and again to stand up for himself, for all the inauthenticity he carries. So I can tell you this signs of completion completely blew my mind away, and it really is a fundamental key to relate with all beings, not just your children, but all beings. The completion signs is such a powerful technique to bring not only the child back to the space, original space of completion, but also yourself, healing all the past wounds that you carry in your inner space. So the third tips is learn the signs of completion and teach your child the signs of completion and start living it with a child. Whenever incompletion is created, learn how to complete with your child or the family. That's the best thing, because imagine when everyone is living in the space of completion, literally the house, the family becomes a heaven, living in heaven in terms of relationship, the space. Such a beautiful space of completion, living together. So that is the third tip that I want to share. Now I'm moving on to the fourth tip. The fourth tip is do not possess your child in the name of love. And let me repeat, don't possess your child in the name of love. Especially, I tell you, a lot of Asian parents, they try to possess their child by living their unfulfilled dreams through the child in the name of love. As a parent, you need to understand a child is an independent being with independent intelligence. He or she is not an extension of us. The moment the child is born, they are independent intelligence. The child had taken birth through us as a way of landing in this world of consciousness. So we should never possess them because they are here to live a life they have chosen, the life purpose they have chosen when they assume the body. They are not here to live your unfulfilled dreams. Live the life you did not live. Let's be very clear. So, parents should never be overly possessive or protective of their child, such that they make the child into someone they want them to be, not what the child wants to be. That is the greatest crime done to the consciousness of a being. So as parents, our role is to give them security, unconditional love, confidence. Be with them, enjoy them, while we hold the space of infinite possibility for them. That is the best things that you can do for your child. Now I'm going to the fifth tip now. A very important tip in the way we don't pass the fear and greed to the children. How? See, the way we're brought up by our parents or grandparents, society, we have been conditioned to run our life by fear or greed. When you're aware of the fact that your life is running behind fear and greed, then take a conscious decision to make sure you don't pass on your fear or greed to the next generation. This is how you can do it. For instance, you know how we've been conditioned by our parents, never play in the rain. If you play in the rain, you get sick. Right? The fear of getting sick if you play in the rain. And if you truly believe that, you will also be teaching your kids not to play in the rain. And if you have experience of falling sick by playing the rain, it becomes part of belief. See, you don't manifest what you desire, you manifest what you believe. So it becomes your cognition. Then obviously, by the time you play in the rain, you are waiting yourself to get sick. Then if you pass the conditioning, that belief system to your child, be very clear, they will also start to believe that playing the rain will fall sick. So don't pass your fear to the next generation. If they play in the rain relating with nature, if you don't give them the idea of falling sick in the rain, when they play in the rain, dance in the rain, then they will never ever fall sick. It is only when you start to insert the belief into their consciousness, that's where they start believing and manifesting the sickness whenever they are playing in the rain or caught in the rain. Understand? So the way we should actually do it is give the facts to the kid. Another great example is teaching the kids how to be a vegetarian. As you all know, being vegetarian has so much positive effects, not only just for the body, mind, and consciousness, but also for planet Earth. And no cruelty to the animal species, the other species which are living on planet Earth. They have equal right to exist, to coexist on planet Earth. They should not be our snacks or food on the table. They are beings also. But when you're not aware, you make them part of your food. And you should know that we are hardwired to eat plant-based diet, not meat. So I remember the way how our parents, especially the Chinese culture, literally, meat is like a must in our diet. The way how we grow up. Meat is also considered as, at least having a balanced diet. You need to have meat, of course with vegetable, and all that. But when I start to teach my child about becoming vegetarian, first I live it, and I share with him the facts about why being vegetarian is great for himself and also his consciousness and planet Earth. So factually I give him what the research are saying about being vegetarian and what Swamiji talk about being vegetarian. Then I also start to let him try the food, give him that independent intelligence to start trying, and gradually he start gravitating towards vegetarian food because of his awareness. So when you start giving them facts, it encourages them to develop their own cognition about life so that they become an independent thinker. We need more independent thinker, not someone who follow rules and instruction. See, the child only needs to be told the facts because we shouldn't disturb their pure space with our fears. So when you give them the facts and they evaluate, they try it on their own, they explore, and their final decision becomes the conscious decision. It is not being pushed or forced by parents who are in fear. Understand this whole new world that we're entering into. The world needs more dynamic and creative leaders who are also independent thinkers. Independent thinkers are what we need to teach the kids so that they become creative leaders for the future. They need to learn how to process and make certain conscious decisions. That can only be taught when you don't taint their space with your fear and greed. You give them facts. Give them facts so that they can start to evaluate and think for themselves. Start encouraging that at a young age. That will do so much good in training them to be conscious in their decision. Okay, so that is the 5th tip. Now, I want to take a pause for a while. Is everybody following me? You can, send a text onto the chat if you are tracking along with me. Am I speaking too fast? I hope you guys are able to follow me till now. I've spoken 5 important tips in enlightened parenting. You can give your thumbs up, you can give your heart. Great. I see people laughing, I see people getting angry, whatever may be, it doesn't matter. If you are interested in understanding, I welcome you. If you're not interested, you can leave this place. So let me just go on to the next tip, the 6th tip. Later on, I'll take on some questions. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of hearts. Okay, that's an affirmation. All right, so let's go on to the 6th tip. Teach them responsibility. This is one very important life lesson that every parent should not miss teaching your child. Take responsibility. They should first be responsible for their body, their mind, and their space. Or else, if they don't take responsibility for their mind, body, and space, what will happen is they will start neglecting these important dimensions of their existence. See, when it comes to self-care of the body, it means caring and maintaining this physical body. If the child is not aware that they need to maintain this body, then they will constantly fall sick. They will constantly, be having to go and see doctor and take medication, and worse, go into surgery or whatever may be. So taking care and being responsible for maintaining this healthy body, the child should know at a very young age. So the first step that you as a parent can teach the child is to get them to start to be responsible for the diet, what they put in the mouth, on the plate, and the activities to keep them healthy, what they can do physically, whether it's yoga, whether it's going out to play, run in the nature, relating with nature, swimming, anything that help them to keep the body healthy. I must tell you, to teach kids responsibility requires a lot of patience. From my experience, it is not easy to teach kids responsibility, but you can do it. The faster they catch that, the more you're able to enjoy. Because when they become independent, able to take responsibility, you're liberated from them. One of the things that I learned from Ma White is, the earlier we make them an independent being, the quicker you are in being liberated from your child. It means not having to be there constantly, taking care of them and all that. It's not that I don't enjoy that, but at some point in time, they need to be taught as an independent being to start to be able to stand up for themselves. So the earlier you train them, the earlier you enjoy with them. Understand? So the first thing I taught my child to start to take care of what he put inside his body through the diet is to involve him in the kitchen, cooking. When he was about 8 years old, I made him learn how to cook for himself, simple dishes, so that he start to learn about food, different kind of vegetable, different kind of diet to help him. So that created the interest in him. And see, without forcing him, if he doesn't enjoy certain activity, so now he has evolved so much that he's able to cook cuisine, Indian cuisines, Western cuisine, fusion food, because of the interest he developed, and healthy food. Because I started teaching him how to be responsible for his diet. So that's one thing that you can learn. And also like teaching him how to care for him, teaching him to do daily yoga. As some of you may know, I'm a yoga teacher. So I started him when he was 3 years old, teaching him yoga. And obviously, it has helped a lot in the bonding as well. When bonding through yoga is a beautiful space, the space of yoga. And especially when the common ground is connection with the Guru, Swamiji. And in that space of Paramashiva, in the yoga, many extraordinary experiences happen just by working with the child, because they are so pure in their space. The way they experience the higher dimension is amazing. So take time to explain to your kid what they should not miss in taking care of the kids, and what they would be missing if they don't take care of the body. Understand? And if they develop laziness, tiredness, the lethargy, you need to find out what activities that will interest them, inspire them, where they will enjoy, the way they want to expand. Understand? Never allow a child should always be active, alive, energetic, not tired all the time, sick all the time, being lazy all the time. That is not the natural state of the child. If you see that happening, especially with this sedentary lifestyle that we live in, and all these games, the media, the light source entertainment devices, whether it's handphone, whether it's computer, iPad, all that, make the child dull and make them less active physically, hyperactive in the mind. That's the worst combination that you can do to your child. Understand? So understand that the child needs to start to develop an attitude which makes them aware of taking the responsibility for themselves. And you should know that the most unfortunate thing that can happen to a child is when the whole child is destroyed the moment the child starts to have the attitude of an adult due to too much thinking. It means they have left the space of the child. They started to think like adult. And if the child becoming adult at a young age, be very clear. You can imagine all the kind of issues that will come. So children should remain life positive as much as possible instead of being negative towards life. So as parents, we should refrain from defining the space for them. Instead, go on creating possibility for them, letting them again and again be centered in the heart, not in the mind. Whenever possible, we should encourage new behaviors, new possibilities. Because when a child start to express new things, it means they are opening up new possibility in their life, whether it's discovering their creativity in the form of movement, dance, body work, or discovering their creativity in art and craft, in nature, whatever may be, whatever new behavior and new passion, that is what is going to, expand them, keep them life positive, connected to the whole consciousness of the planet Earth. Okay, so that is the sixth tip. Teach them to take responsibility. So now I'm going on to the seventh tip. This is very important to bring fulfillment in your child, which is awakening their intelligence, passion, and creativity. The sad part is the Western education system does not fully awaken the child's full potential. The curriculum that are being taught in the school are mainly left brain centric stimulation. In the Vedic tradition, in the Gurukul, for instance, where enlightened beings guide the child in their development and learning, they actually awakens the full brain functioning, the whole brain functioning of the child. See, conscious intelligence is the ability to process beyond the logical mind. When they are established in the space of the child, this happens very easily for the kid. Just like they can just simply download. They can simply have the awareness because the child, he or she trusts the space of possibility beyond the logic. When a child is stuck in the logical frame of the mind, that disconnect the child from the higher possibility of the consciousness, because consciousness is beyond logic. So a child is able to connect and see much more than adults as a picture and not in words. So that's why in the first 7 years of a child's age, they are operating in the visualization mode, the mode of visualization. That's why when you talk to your child, they relate with you through their space. Through the space, you are relating with them. Not so much by verbalization. They connect with you through the space. So if you're able to keep your space pure and come to their space, that communication can happen easily. Okay? So a child is able to connect to see more, like I say, in the space. Unfortunately, as adult, we lost this intelligence since we don't trust the space anymore, given the conditioning by the society and the way how we've been taught in logical thinking, the way have been taught to we run our life for results, performance, being calculative in the way how we operate in our life. All that connect us with this intelligence. So if you allow your child to discover their passion and creative expression, that will bring so much fulfillment in them. Understand? Connecting them to their passion, whether it's in the music, whether it's in the dance, whatever may be, something they are deeply passionate about. That itself will awaken their intelligence because it's their deep passion. Naturally, they will be creative about it. When they explore their creativity in something they are deeply passionate about, fulfillment just happens easily. So And then for you, you just hold the space of possibility for them to flower and blossom, whatever passion they may be having, and see them and guide them to discover, move them to higher and higher into level of authenticity, stretching themselves, stretching the kids to the next level of possibility, to their peak capacity. That in itself brings so much fulfillment in the kid's life. Okay? So connecting them to the intelligence, passion, and creativity. That itself will bring fulfillment in whatever they are doing. You must understand, I've seen a lot of kids, teenagers, even young adults, by the time they leave the school, they still have not found their passion. They still do not know what they want. They're lost in life. And that being lost, they are just kind of dabbling in different things and still not able to really have fulfillment in their life. And as a result, they waste a lot of that life searching, not able to be able to express their creativity and their intelligence, the gift they have brought in this body. As a parent, if you are aware, you're able to discover the natural bio-memories that the kids come in this body, whether it's in the form of talent in the music, in the form of different creative expression. If you are able to support them, for them to express that brings a lot of creativity and also fulfillment in them. So that is the 7th tip. Now I want to move on to the 8th tip so that we have time for Q&A. The 8th tip is never ever plant the idea of self-doubt in them. This is a big one, I must say. As parents, you need to be very conscious, because we ourselves has given by our parents a lot of self-doubting patterns, self-hating patterns, and self-denial patterns. That's why as a parent, before you even try to work with your kids, start doing your completion, all your SDHD, self-doubt, self-hatred, and self-denial patterns. Then you start helping them. And when you are conscious, because you have already completed, you don't pass the same, SDHD to them. So I want to tell you, as parents, we have to make sure we don't plant any idea of powerlessness in our child and our kids. It is very important so that they continue to live in the space of huge possibilities, which is the enlightened consciousness. A child should never be put in the space of powerlessness, like for instance, I'm wrong, I've done a terrible mistake, and make the child feel guilty. Or I'm alone, you're not loved, you're not wanted. If you don't do this, I don't love you. That kind of idea being put into the child to make the child shrinking, feeling insecure, doubting themselves, and making the child feel that nobody loves him or loves her. All that negative thought current of self-doubt should never ever be inserted or make them to feel that way. Children do not like to be put in a frame, a limiting frame, especially worse is a frame of powerlessness. So by the moment we introduce self-doubt to them, we literally force them into the frame. When self-doubting patterns start to develop, the suffocation start to develop, this starts the violence in them. Violence in the form of tantrum throwing, screaming, all that behavior starts to come. You must understand this is a straight truth. No violence can happen in the space of expansion. When the child is in the expansion cognition, life positive cognition, they can never be violent. They can only be creative, joyful, blissful being. But if you start putting them in a frame where restrictive cognition about them make them feel suffocated, doubting themselves, or start hating themselves, that starts the violence in their space. So we should encourage our child to be in expansion cognition, constantly in the space of possibility. Understand? This is something a parent need to learn again and again, because you need to unlearn, because what you have been, what has been put into you, and not to make sure that you don't do the same thing to your child. This is one big lesson that I also learned, to be honest. So trust your child completely and do not shout at them or constantly take them into the past, which takes them away from the present moment. Whenever a child makes mistake, we just need to help them understand there's no right, no failure in life. It's just lessons and lessons. We're here to learn lessons, which every lesson we learn, we just accumulate intelligence and wisdom. We just need to make sure that they don't make the same mistake twice. If they make the same mistake twice, it means they haven't learned the mistake in the first time when they make the mistake. So teach them that it's perfectly fine to make mistakes, but make new mistakes so that they learn. Not the same old mistake again and again, which means the intelligence or awareness is not there. Making new mistake is okay, because that's what they learn. New, different dimension or aspect of life, or about themselves. So that is one important tip. So avoid labeling your child with all the names given by society. Oh, my child is autistic. Oh, my child is stupid. Oh, my child is, lazy. All that name calling. Stop that. Do not create self-doubt in them, because that only reduces their space of possibility. That is the 8th tip that I'm giving. Now, the 9th tip, very important one, which a lot of parents struggle because we live in the IT age. The 9th tip is keep them away from media. See, a lot of unconscious parents, what they do? They use TV, computers, gadgets as a distraction for the kid so that they can do their things. They use the gadget as like babysitter, or for security reason, to keep the child safe. Or you have the phone so that I know how to contact you and all that. But the main thing is they try to keep the child entertained by the media so that they can have some time of their own. But what they don't realize is all these light source gadgets not only create a lot of damage into their inner space, their otherwise pure inner space. See, what happened is, for all the light source gadgets, most of them are running on motion picture video, which is processing at a high frame per second, at least 15, 16 frames per second, some even 22 frames per second. So it's going at a rapid speed. So when a child is accustomed or habituated to seeing things in such a high speed, they lose the sensitivity to see things in reality. Just like how you're on a train. If the train is moving in a very slow speed, you can see all the details, the mountains, the paddy field, the trees, the birds, animals, everything. But if the train is cruising at a high speed, what do you see? A blur image. You can't even see the landscape properly. You just see a blur image and you just pass so quickly. This is what happens when the kid is habituated to seeing things in a high speed, frame per second in their inner space. The eye movement is so rapid. That creates fantasy. That creates take them away from the grounded reality, because they by and by they start to become comfortable only seeing things in such high speed video, which means what? They constantly will be on the gadget, and if they take that away from them, they will start throwing tantrums. You read, right? Kids, teenagers who shot the parents if they were not given their PlayStation in some other Western country, in some other places, part of the world. When kids are denied from, let's say, this, they become so insensitive. They're not grounded on the reality. So when they're denied from, ability to again and again feed this fantasy or delusion, they become violent, agitated easily. So understand, keep them away from the media as much as you can. Only, see, one of the things that we all know is a great challenge, because we live in the IT age where a lot of things are being done through gadgets. It is a way of life. So what you can do is you need to learn how to restrict that and also use that only for expansion cognition. I remember Swamiji also told the Balasan, use that only for learning, for basically doing what they need to do for learning. But once they're done with that, they should be engaged in life, whether it's playing with the deities, whether it's relating with their fellow peers or adults and all that. They should be engaged in life rather than running behind gadgets or computer. Understand? This is, I must say, one of the most difficult challenges in a lot of parents, especially in, I don't know about other parts or in Asia. I've heard a lot of Chinese parents came to me and said that they are not able to control the kids' overindulgence in game playing or spending time on the handphone or iPad. So be very clear, it's not advisable to keep the child's mind too occupied by putting them through these, things that create downers in them or create delusion, disconnected with the ground reality of life. So that is a very important tip that I want to give. That is, use the light source gadget for expansion cognition only, learning, but not as a way to keep them entertained. As parents, take the responsibility to engage them in other more creative exploration about life, whether it's in a form of bodywork like yoga, meditations, exploring things that is life affirmative, whether it can be cooking classes, anything that helps the child to be engaged in the life with people not getting cooked up in front of the computer or the handphone or mobile devices that make them uncomfortable, dysfunctional in the society. So that's the 9th tip I'm giving. Now we come to the last tip. This is related to food, diet. Let them be fulfilled with food. So you need to understand, eating is a time where bonding in relationship happens. And a lot of culture relate with food as love. The sentiment of love. Just like how when your mom cook a nice meal, you feel the love and you associate that as love by your mom. So whenever food is concerned, food is always associated to the sticky part of us, the emotional part of us, the emotional zone within us, which is love. So when you come to food, make sure that you bring fulfillment to them. Understand? Don't restrict them, but help them to understand the different kinds of food and how they work with the body and energy and consciousness. With that understanding, your child can choose the right food for him. That is one big lesson that I learned from the parenting workshop. Never create guilt in them when they are eating. Let them be fulfilled with food, which is the most important lesson. Let them enjoy completely so that they can drop it when it is no longer needed. When you suppress, when you deny, it creates a hangover in them as a child, which may come back as a perversion in later part of their life. Don't do that. A perversion means eating disorder, aversion in certain food, allergy in certain food. That is not what you want, and destroy their completion with food. Once they understand food is not a pleasure, right? Simply they will be able to drop it easily. Help them understand the utility value of food, which is to help them nourish this body so that this body can continue to serve them, to become a vehicle for their dreams and achievement in the outer world. With the right cognition of maintaining the body, why food is needed. Now, in relation to food, one of the problems that many parents face today, especially we live in the world of consumerism and processed food, is overeating in children, especially when children develop attachment to some taste, some kind of craving for food or craving for attention, whatever may be. If they have developed certain craving as pattern, you need to help them to complete with the pattern of craving. So that is one important part, so that they start to have a healthy relationship with food and with their body. Because one thing that I learned from Swamiji is everything should be a play, a child's play for them. When it is a play, they can just drop it. It's just like they're playing with a toy. Once they had enough, they just go on to the next thing. So there's no attachment. It's just whatever that moment, that present moment they're enjoying. After that, they just drop it. Develop that kind of casual, unclutched relationship with food, not as an addiction or aversion to food. Okay, so these are the 10 tips that I have shared with the viewers in this session. Now, I'm going to open questions. You can type onto the chat group if you like. Then I'll take a few questions because we still have about 15 minutes. Whatever I have spoken, let me just summarize the 10 tips if you have forgotten. First, understand the space of the child. Bring them constantly back to the space of the child so that they are constantly living in that space of huge possibility, the enlightened consciousness. Second, listening is the door to their space. As a parent, come back to authentic listening. Give your listening to them. That starts the communication. Third, complete within yourself and start to teach the science of completion to them. Fourth, do not possess your child in the name of love. Fifth, give them only facts, minus the fear and the greed from society. Sixth, teach them how to take responsibility for their body, their mind, and space. 7, awaken your child's intelligence and their passion and creativity. That in itself will bring tremendous fulfillment in them. Then you don't have to worry anymore. You don't have to nag at them. They will simply be inspired by themselves because it's something they're deeply passionate about. Your job becomes easy. 9, keep them away from media, light source, gadget, and all that. And lastly, bring fulfillment in them when it comes to food. Okay, so let me just see. Yes. Chichin is saying, yeah, can hear my heartbeat just to find you. Yes, that communion, that level of communion the child has in you, and they can simply find you easily. Thank you, okay. I'm just scrolling down to see some more questions. All right. Okay, so how would you recommend to start removing my child to only learning about gadgets? How you recommend to start removing my child? Okay, see, if we teach them to use gadget as an information source, the learning tool, but not as a way to induce addiction where when they become bored, they grab the thing, like just killing time. Don't create that habit that whenever they feel bored, they feel, they're restless, they need to go and grab for the gadgets. And help them understand what long duration of time you spend in the light source gadget is doing to their body, mind, and consciousness. So if you help them understand, then they can make informed decision. Okay. See, one thing you must know, the whole external world is trying to have time, entertainment time for every individual. If they catch you early, that means you're done. That means you become the customer. Understand? So the whole society, corporation is trying to catch your time. How much time they occupy in your life in 24 hours, that determines how much revenue they are going to earn from you. So if you understand from that conspiracy, you try to protect the child from those corporate machines, money-making machine, as long as you can. Don't let them into that machinery. Can you share some little research on what you explain on gadget, please? So interesting. Okay. So all of you should know, I worked in the mobile phone company before I left my corporate life. So I know what the gadget is doing to the consciousness. That's why I couldn't do it anymore. I had to leave the corporate world because it's in direct conflict with my spiritual life and my professional life. And guess what? I was a marketeer. My role is to create desires, make people buy. My role is to create consumerism. That's another big no-no in spirituality. So basically, yes, that's what I know. How the child, I think, for a child, normal child, they process, life by 5 to 6 frames per second. That's roughly the speed of the eye movement. But when they are watching too much of the video, which is going on 15 and 16 frames per second, going very rapid, that forces the kids to become insensitive because they are not able to see the details. They are not able to sense, be sensitive to the people, the environment, the feeling. They only want to be entertained because they're habituated to that. Okay? So to the food topic, how does it really work to create fulfillment with food in them? That part, you need to explore a little bit, my dear. Stephanie was asking, how does it really work to create fulfillment with food in them? So, see, you need to understand that. First, you don't put your ideas about food in them. Okay? Do some research, help them to understand, certain food, what is good for, and get them to play with it. Understand? And that requires a little bit of exploration. I remember one technique which Ma White shared, which I want to share with you. It's like, for instance, see, when the kids start to think about normal objects like table, chairs, things that they see daily, right? Versus the idea about food. And discover where they're hiding the incompletion. See, if they don't have any incompletion with normal objects with chairs and tables, right? It's just objects. But when you come to foods, let's say they develop certain incompletion with the food. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, this is, they have certain like and dislike. So that you should be able to understand where this incompletion happens with certain food. Be very clear, in children, there should be no incompletion with objects. Food is objects. So if you understand this context of no incompletion with external objects, everything should be a play for them. Let them play, let them enjoy casually, and they will be able to drop it. Okay? I hope that answers your question about how to create fulfillment with food in them. Oh, thank you. It's beyond amazing program. It's so true. Okay, any other question? If not, we're just about 5 minutes before we wrap up. I certainly hope that you guys enjoyed this session as much as I do, and with Swamiji's guidance and his blessings, that you guys are able to come on live to listen to what I have to share and some of the things that I really hold deeply in my heart after having given this deep understanding in enlightened parenting, and those tips that I really embrace and I live it with my child. So well, all of you are already asking a session on discovering the child's passion, since this has to be discovered. I think we had to cover some of the topic sometime. Okay, so it seems that every one of you got many clicks from this session, and I hope you guys enjoy and start to become a conscious parent. I tell you, when the parents start to be shifted, from my very experience, I see how the child flowers in their consciousness. If the mother or the father is able to hold a powerful space of possibility, the child starts relating in higher consciousness. Something that I can share in the future in relation with my child. But I can see that the parent plays a major role in helping the child reach its ultimate potential. I tell you, it is no joke. The parents hold an important key. That's why I'm on a mission to awaken many parents, not only through Gurukul, but through this parenting session, so that more and more parents get awakened. Because I tell you, parenting is one topic or one subject that it is not easy to learn, but it's not impossible when you have the enlightened master, Swamiji, to guide. Simply, not only you flower, the child also start blossoming. That is the best thing for mother, father, and the child flowers when you are established and living those enlightened consciousness, living those enlightened parenting, the principle of the enlightened parenting. So with that, I would like to conclude now this session. I really thank all of you for coming online to share this moment with me. And my deep gratitude to Swamiji, and also my wife for inspiring me, who given me this knowledge 7 years ago, so that I can also be a channel for Swamiji to enrich many more parents and kids. With that, I'd like to conclude with the Purna mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Bhagavashi Nithyananda Paramashiva Paduka Paramastu. Om Nithyanandam. Thank you, Nithyanandam. Have a good day.